Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All right. I'm being told by a lot of people
yes, you're getting
to take the day off. Rest of the day off.
Yeah.
Not a great start. But you know who can save it for us?
This guy.
Our first guest of the day, Jeff Paterson from Sekeres. Price Canucks hosting Ottawa, scheduled to host Ottawa Saturday at Rogers Arena. Jeff, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
Happy New Year's, guys. And Donnie, take the day off.
Well, the Canucks have the day off.
Yeah, that's true.
And tomorrow and the next day. I guess the racket practice. It's interesting. They were supposed to practice today. Originally, after the Seattle game, Bruce Boudreau had laid out the plan for the week. Sunday was a day off. They were going to practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, take Thursday off. I wonder if they realized that Brock Besser and a few of these other guys might be available for practice tomorrow, and that was the reason for a flip. I don't know that. I'm just sort of speculating here, but the hope has to be that Besser is going to be back on the ice here sooner rather than later, and that's been a part of this story too, guys. I think that's kind of gone underreported is, you know, they've picked up 5 of a possible 6 points all on the road without their hottest player under Bruce Boudreau. So it's just another feather in the cap of this group that, you know, didn't sulk in any way when they found out that Besser was unavailable and in COVID protocol, it's happening around the National Hockey League. But I like the fact that they've been able to grind out results with a guy who, you know, had sprung back to life after this coaching change.
I would never take a day off when it's a day. You're one of our guests. Jeff, we talked about this in the first segment. I know it's relatively early, but have you noticed the difference between Bruce Boudreau's practices and Travis Green's practices?
I was at Rogers Arena yesterday. I have to say, full disclosure, Donnie, with all of the breaks over the holidays, I wasn't there for many of his early practices. I think I was around for 1 or 2. The thing you notice right now is just the mood. Like, these guys are having fun. Winning is fun, and I think that makes Bruce Boudreau's life that much easier, to the point that, you know, guys are willing to embrace a skate at the end of practice. Like, they recognize that they're not playing until Saturday. They want to stay sharp. And I think that's what that was yesterday, was Bruce Boudreau, you know, just pushing the limits a little bit, probably knowing that today was going to be a day off, even though they hadn't announced it to the rest of us. And so, you know, he just wants his guys to keep their feet under them, to keep the competitive rate as high as it can be for whenever they get back into game action. And for their sake, I hope they do play Saturday, because my goodness, like, I think it would be difficult as a coach to sort of harness all of this good that they've got going on if they don't play again until next Tuesday in Florida to start that road trip. And that road trip is going to be an absolute beast. I'm sure they'd like a game on Saturday to get the competitive juices flowing. Otherwise, it's going to be tough to jump back into game action against a Florida Panthers team that has become one of the best teams in the NHL. So just, I think what I noticed yesterday, the mood obviously is light. Guys are having fun. They want to be around the rink. We saw that. In fact, that final practice before Christmas, when guys wouldn't leave, like that's kind of the state of this team right now. They want to be on the ice as much as possible. And so this is a minor inconvenience. I think guys understand the state of the world that we are in. It's far from perfect, especially when they're playing as well as they are right now. But, you know, again, if you're looking for things to draw on, it's the fact that they had a prolonged Christmas break and then they came out, and I thought their performance in Anaheim, even though they were down 1-0 into the third period, I thought they were terrific in Anaheim. Not as good the next night in Los Angeles, but Jaro Halak was there to help them get at least a single point. And then again, really good, I thought, on Saturday in Seattle, jumping all over the Kraken, who, let's be honest, are looking the part of an expansion team right now with just 1 win in 9 games. But full credit to the Canucks. I thought they took the game to Seattle, jumped out to that 2-0 lead, and that served them well the rest of the night.
So, Jeff, you had the stat yesterday that popped out, 22 games without a multi-point game for Elias Paterson. 22 games this guy's gone without more than 1 point in a game. What are you reading? Like, what are you seeing? Why is he not the difference maker he used to be?
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be the discussion point right now. He needs the Canucks to play games so that it takes some of the attention off and maybe gives him an opportunity, because you want to believe that the next game might be the one that he breaks out. But, you know, I was just looking at his season in totality, and that jumped off the page at me, Rick, that November 7th against Dallas, the Canucks won 6-3. The power play lit the Stars up, and Paterson had 3 points that night. it's one of only 2 multi-point games that he's had all season. He had 2 points in Philadelphia in game 2. And so the 32 games since that night in Philly, it's only happened once, which, this is a guy that burst onto the scene. We all remember 10 goals in his first 10 NHL games. He had 2 5-point nights in his first 26 games in the National Hockey League. And right now, he just doesn't look anything like that player. And so what, a point here and a point there tells me is that, certainly he hasn't taken over any games. And I think all Canuck fans that have watched these games closely, they recognize that. But still, JT Miller's managing to pick up points. Tanner Pearson had a multi-point game the other night. Quinn Hughes does it on the regular. It's happening for this group. It's just not happening for Elias Pettersson. And, I know he's sticking around after practice and he's putting in the work, and that's all great. But I do still feel like there's room for him to up his work rate within the games themselves. And I just like to see him. It doesn't feel like he's gone all out. And one of the things that people fell in love with early in that rookie season, and even in the sophomore year as well, was how ferocious he was at both ends of the ice. Yes. And people raved about back checks with this guy. And that doesn't happen often in hockey, but we just loved how he hounded pucks and, never gave up on plays. And you heard Bruce Boudreau talking about frustration setting in and having to work a little bit harder. And I think all of that is fair. Look, nobody's going to get him out of it. Bruce Boudreau can't fold his hand when he's out there on the ice. Like, this is on him. And so, I'm not in the camp that even wants to entertain the idea of trading him right now. I just want him to take this on as a challenge. And he's met most challenges head on in the National Hockey League to this point. I know there's more to give there. And a point here and a point there, 9 points total in that 22-game stretch, that's not enough. And so, the flip side of that equation, guys, is that if you're Jim Rutherford and you come in, you're now in evaluation mode, and this team is 8-0-1 in 9 games, and Paterson really hasn't done much. Like, is the new man in charge thinking, like, all right, like, I knew a little bit about Elias Pettersson from the outside, but, what is his value to this hockey club? Like, I'm saying don't trade him, but if you're the new guy in charge and this team's having all this success, and really he hasn't done an awful lot in pulling his own weight, like, does that change the perception of the guy that is calling the shot? So I don't think the Canucks are in any rush to entertain trade options for Elias Pettersson. I think the number one option would be to get this guy playing better, but ultimately that has to be on him, because what we've seen as a part-time producer here and there, it's not enough. There's a better player there. I know there is, and he's got to show it.
Jeff, you're a great follow on Twitter. I don't have to tell you that. You tweeted out yesterday the Canucks training camp roster from last season. What stood out?
Just the churn of the roster was incredible. And like, we've all been there, we've followed, and I know that guys that were here aren't here any longer, but when you see it on paper like that, and it feels like we've all lived 1,000 lifetimes, and I think it was yesterday or the day before, was 1 year since they stepped onto the ice for that pre-COVID training camp. Like, it is remarkable how time has sort of been in a holding pattern with COVID. But I think it was just the overall churn of the roster and how many guys that were here a year ago are no longer part of the mix for the Vancouver Canucks. And, some of the moves have been good ones. Some of them maybe haven't helped the team to the degree that they thought they would. And ultimately, I guess the biggest change is the guy behind the bench and the one up in the front office. And we know that those changes happened a month ago, and, hard to argue with the results since. So let's hope that 2022 is a better year for the Vancouver Canucks than the calendar year that preceded it.
Jeff, I missed the Christmas sweater and the Santa hat, but this will do. Thanks so much for this. Happy New Year.
Yeah, it's a lot of white on white, as I recognize now. The walls are a little off-white, but I kind of feel like I'm green screened here, and my head is just floating on the program for you guys today.
You're not the only one on the show whose head is floating. Jeff, thanks.
Next week, a vest.
Oh, nice.
Okay. We look forward to that.
Yeah.
Look forward to that. Thanks, Jeff.